Now in this video, we will going to talk about gets and puts function. So what is the get function? When the user wants to read a sequence of characters from the keyboard with spaces in between and store them in memory location. That means it's a string wherein a set of characters which is continuously it is entered. It may be a sentence. And the sentence may have a space also to be considered. Then the puts function, whenever we want to display a sequence of characters stored in the memory, that means whatever we have entered here, that should be displayed onto your screen from the memory location, then puts function is used. So the syntax is, so include stdio.h, so char variable which is a string of 10 spaces. Then we'll go to execute this. Get string is the function which is going to be used. This function is used to read a string from the keyboard which include white space characters such as space and tab till we press a new line character, that means enter key. The new line character will not be a part of the string, but the string ends with a null character. That means whenever you enter an enter key, so that means there will be having a null character. What is a null character? Which is \0. The resulting string which will going to be stored in the memory location in the variable as str, which has been given here. Then to display that onto your screen or from the memory location which you want to be displayed on your screen, then the puts function is used. So the syntax is include stdio.h, the character string which has got 10 spaces, then put string. So display the stored in the memory location str. This function displays all the characters stored in the variable string str on the monitor till it encounters a \0. Then a new line character is displayed so that the cursor moves to the beginning of the next line. Now we are going to take up a very simple example wherein the program to read and display a string of characters using these functions which is shown below. So include stdio.h main. So we will going to assign the character char variable with a string of 15 spaces. So we are going to use the gets is the function, string is the str is the variable name, then puts str is the variable name, and then we are going to have an input as a space character is been given here bc. The output will also be getting in the same spaces. Now similarly, so this is how we are going to be get executed. Then comes the formatted input scanf statement. This function scans, that is checks whether the data entered from the keyboard is already available in temporary storage area called buffer. If data is not present in the buffer, then this function waits for the user to enter the data from the keyboard. This function scans, that is checks whether the data entered from the keyboard is already available in temporary storage area called buffer. So the moment when you enter this, write the scan function, so it will try to check from the memory storage. If it is not there, then it will going to try to get the input from the keyboard. Then comes the format. If data is present in the buffer, the data is converted into appropriate data type using the format string with the help of conversion codes. So that means if the data is already available in the buffer, that is in the memory, then it will going to convert that into an appropriate data depending upon the type of variable function which has been used. Using conversion codes, the sequence of characters entered from the keyboard will be converted into appropriate data type. What is the syntax? N will be equal to scanf format string and the address list. N will be equal to scanf within quotes %d, %f and %c, and with the comma $x, $y and $z. So that means %c converts the input data into character, %f converts input data into floating point number, %d converts input data into integer. So D, F and C are nothing but the conversion codes. Then comes with the address list. It is a list of variables. Each variable name must be preceded by an ampersand sign. That is the symbol here. the number of variables names must be equal to the number of format specifiers. So that means if n is equal to scanf within quotes %d, %f, or %c, comma, ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z. So what is the %d, %f, and %c? These are the format specifiers, and ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z is the 3 variables. So number of format specifiers. So this is the specifier. Percentage is the specifier. D, F, and C are the format specifiers. Number of format specifiers should be equal to the number of variables. Returning the value. The function returns an integer value. This returned value is the number of items that have been read successfully from the keyboard. So that means, if for example, if n is equal to scanf %d, 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 and ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z, then input will be 10, 20, 30. Here n is equal to 3, since 3 values are entered from the keyboard. All are integer variables. Suppose if you are using n scanf %d, 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 ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z. So input, if you are giving it as 10, 20, and control minus z, then n will be equal to C2, since 2 values are entered from the keyboard. Control z indicates end of the line. So that means if it is an integer value, then we are going to use the address variable as address format specifier as D. If it is a, of course, this is the integer variable, so that is the reason why we are using the address as %d. Explain the following instruction from the input data as 10, 10.5, and A. Suppose if you are using a scanf of %d, %f, and %c, ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z. So this is the so each will going to have the 2 bytes. So which will going to have 10.5 from the keyboard buffer, which will going to be entered. The scanf, this is %d, which is for x, %f, which is for y, and %c, %a is for z. These are the format specifiers, address of the variables. So n is equal to 3. Here 10, which is been assigned like this, 10.5, which is assigned like this, and A, which is the memory location. Then rules for while using the scanf statement. So what are the rules which are going to be applied? There must be a format for each variable, that is number of format specifiers must be equal to the number of variables. So that means %d, %f, or %c. These are the 3 variables you have used, the format specifiers, and the variables is ampersand x, ampersand y, and ampersand z. The variables present in scanf must represent the address of memory locations. So in such cases, INTA, if it has been declared, then integer is the format specifier is %d, ampersand a. Point number 3, the type conversion specified is each format specifier must match the corresponding type of variable present. So that means if it is INTA, it should be %d, ampersand a, where %d is an integer and ampersand a is the integer variable. Input data, point number 4, input data items must be separated by appropriate delimiters such as spaces, commas, etc. And all these delimiters must be in the same order in the format string. For example, if you are considering it as a scanf %d, %f, ampersand a, and ampersand b, so it is 10, 12.5 is the input. So 10 %d is an integer, so 10 is the integer. So %f is the float, 12.5 is a float, therefore you are going to have a valid number. So number of format specifiers is equal to number of variables here. The scanf %d, comma, %f within quotes, ampersand a and ampersand b. Here 10 is, here it is 10 is given here, and %f 12.5, it is invalid. Why? Because comma must separate a data. Comma must be separated by a data. So here, if it is given like this, then it is invalid. Scanf %d space %f within quotes, ampersand a and ampersand b. The input is 10.5 and 5. It is invalid because here 10.5 what we are entering, it is a floating number, but the format specifier is address is %d, so it is invalid because first data should be an integer value. Next is the float number. So white spaces characters other than space should not be used. That is \t, \p and \n characters should not be used in the scanf statement. So scanf %d, ampersand a, %b is valid. Suppose if it is scanf %d \n and %d is invalid because /n should not be used there. Point number 6. It is a fatal error to end the format string where the white space character with a white space character. Here, if it is scanf, it is valid. %d, ampersand a and ampersand b, it's valid. But here, scanf within quotes %d, and there is a space and close the quote and comma, ampersand a and ampersand invalid. Space should not be there at end of the format string. And similarly, /n at the end of the format string is also not allowed. Then the process of converting the data into appropriate data type will be stopped whenever end of file is encountered and the maximum number of characters have been processed and an error is detected in the input. So next comes the formatted output. So what is the formatted output using printf function? So this function prints the data stored in the specified memory location or variables. So format the data present in memory locations or variables is read and converted into appropriate data type. This is done using format string with the help of the conversion codes. So using conversion codes, the data read from the memory is converted into appropriate data type and will be displayed on the screen like this. So here the syntax is n will be a printf format string. So the list of variables is printf %d, %f and %c, which is xyz. For example, n will be equal to printf within quotes %d space %f space %c and close the quotes comma x comma y comma z. %c converts the data into character, %f converts the data into floating point number, and %d converts the data into signed integer. And d, f and c are the conversion codes or characters. List of variables. The variables in the list must be separated by commas and the number of variable names must be equal to the number of format specifiers. So here %d, %f and %c are the format specifiers, x, y, z are the variables. So returning the value, the function returns an integer value. So this returned value is the number of characters that have been successfully printed on the screen. If int x is equal to 10, y is equal to 20 and z is equal to 30, so printf %d, comma x, comma y, comma z. So what will be the output? Output will be 10, 20, 30, 2 spaces and 1 space is 20, 2, 1, 2, 1. So the number of space will go on to be, that means the 8 characters. N is equal to 8. 8 characters are displayed on the screen. So if it is n is equal to printf within quotes hello, then pure text is displayed, output as hello. So here the number of characters is 5. So now we will going to give a small program how to execute the printf and the scanf statements. So int number, printf enter an integer number, scanf scan that number. So since you are using an integer, in the scanf we will going to get it as %d and the variable name has to be a number. If number is less than 100, then printf your number is smaller than 100. So suppose if I type the 54, then what happens is 54 number is assigned this 54 and read that number here and number ampersand number. So once it reads that, then it checks the condition. So 54 is less than 100. Yes, it is true. Therefore, your number is smaller than 100. So it will going to execute this statement. Then again, if you run the program, if I write enter an integer number, it is asking for the number. So I will type 108. Then, so it will read that number as because it is %d, it is a integer number. So 100 is, then it will going to check the statement. Is this 108 is less than 100? No. So else if your number contains more than 2 digits. So that means it will going to execute this statement. Similarly,